March 13th, and I'll call this meeting to order. We have a quorum present with all voting members here. Action item 1, consider approval of the Economic Development and Tourism Board December 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes. Please take a minute to look them over. Any requested amendments? Yeah, here. Let me take this whole packet.
Sure. Have a whole packet.
Thank you.
Do you need an agenda? Oh, you just got the whole packet. Okay. Yeah.
This is Luke. I would move to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Spencer? And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries. Victoria, I'll hand you these now. That way we don't forget them. Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen comment period. I don't see any citizens in the room, but nothing online. Then I'll go ahead, open and close citizen comment at 8:09. Next, staff reports, receive a report and hold a discussion and provide staff feedback on potential revisions to the economic development incentive policy. Rosie, are you presenting this one for us?
We'll tag team it.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're tag teaming it. What does it say on the thing? Oh, wait, it says it's me.
Well, you want me to start? And then
Go ahead.
Okay. So if you remember last time we talked about revisions to the incentive policy, the one we have is rather outdated and hasn't really been looked at in a while. So we spent some time figuring out what was good about our incentive and what we could do to make it better. And so the first thing we came up with was the idea of having an overarching incentive policy, because we have one for larger businesses that come in and, the larger employers that we're looking for. But then we also have the downtown revitalization grant, the first year on us. We have a restaurant incentive, but ultimately the goal is the same, right? We want to create revenue for the city. We want the city to have a positive, and the community to recognize a positive impact from incentives that they offer. So if there's an overarching incentive policy, then everything just flows underneath it. Okay, and so this is how we think the structure should work. And so in the language of our incentive policy that we will draft after we get feedback from the board, is why the city offers incentives. We want to define guiding principles on evaluation metrics, ROI standards, and also accountability. But we want to leave it flexible so that council has the authority and discretion, to be flexible with different type of special projects that may not fall in these within these guidelines. And then we want it to apply to all economic development incentives unless expressly exempted. So this would be like the city's constitution for incentives. And this will be adopted by council and come with recommendation from the board. That's why it's important that we get your feedback, and that weighs very heavily on council's decision to adopt or make any changes to the policy. So the programs, and again, so this is the overarching umbrella policy on the left, and then underneath it will live other program specific incentives, such as things that could address specific goals, geographies, business types, like our restaurant incentive, downtown revitalization, and the incentives for the smaller ones must comply with the overarching policy.
From a governance standpoint, who approves exclusions or exemptions?
The council would, with recommendation from the board, and also from staff and city leadership. Council would have the discretion.
And are there anticipated exemptions from the get-go?
Well, we talked last time about, if we get this unicorn-like project that maybe doesn't have as many jobs, but let's just say the capital investment is $1 billion.
And it has huge, maybe ramifications for later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we would look at it that way, even though maybe on this matrix that we'll talk about in a moment, maybe it doesn't fall in line with maybe they only have 30 jobs. But, if we're
So
looking at
we don't already have a list of businesses or engagements that are
No.
going to be exempted.
No,
No,
if we did, we would write a policy that said that. I mean, we're trying to build ourselves some flexibility so that we can accommodate things that might come our way.
the unicorn project. So the revisions will establish purpose and strategic alignment. We want it to align with our strategic plan that the city adopted, the city council strategic plan to reflect a thriving and prosperous economy. We want it to have performance-based accountability and also transparency, strategic incentive metrics, which we will talk about in a moment, and then the tools and the application process. So this is what we will go through. So again, we want it to fall in line with our strategic plan, and this would, the policy, ultimately the goal is to enhance Kyle's competitiveness within the I-35 corridor. 100% our goal is to increase local employment to keep 73% of our residents from leaving every day to go into Austin primarily. I think we're definitely making some headway on that because 10 years ago when we did our strategic plan, we were at 80% of people would leave, 80 or more. And then a couple of years ago when we did further research, now we're down to 73%. So it'll be interesting to kind of research that over the next couple of years and make sure we're going in a positive direction of keeping more people here.
And has the city or council identified what that goal number is for a percent to stay in the city?
That's a good question. I don't know what's ideal. But I did look, and I can go back and find it, but I looked at communities in the region, and I think one of the lowest ones was San Marcos and Round Rock, primarily because they have Dell there. And then San Marcos, I think a majority of people work at the university. So they kept a lot of their employment there as well. So I can dig up that was in the presentation. I don't know what a good number would be, but as long as we keep decreasing it, I think we're
Positive trend line.
yeah. Okay, and then the other reasons to strengthen our local tax base and also to support programmatic development, redevelopment for high priority areas such as downtown.
Do we have a dream mix of, when we say the 73, do we have a blue collar, white collar, any demographics goals or sub targets, or do we just want to lower the overall?
Well, we definitely want to create the jobs that are livable wage jobs, right? And we haven't identified that number yet, whether they fall under blue collar or white collar. What I do know is the majority of our residents are leaving Kyle to work in professional services. So I would say white collar business professional services. And the average salary for those jobs they're leaving for is about $80,000 to $83,000. From the research, I also found that those people that commute into Kyle come in here for jobs that are $80,000 to $83,000. So it's that seems to be the magic number that maybe we can work towards when we offer incentives. But it's a very, I'd imagine most of them work at the hospital who are coming in for those jobs, or some at the school district. But that's the magic number, right?
And what year was that 83,000 number?
That was probably from 2022.
Okay.
It was census data from, that not from the 2020 census, but, the subsequent data that they pull from 2022.
I want to make sure that it was inflation adjusted, but if it's that recent, it's
Yeah,
not
it
going to be
was
huge
very-
different today, but a little bit.
And that might be something that, excuse me, Cassidy is in the lobby. Let me just let her in. I don't know how long she's been there. Hi, Cassidy. Okay, so hi. All right. So again, the goal, thriving and prosperous economy. We talked about all of these things. we want to seek to offer incentives, and they must align with local job creation, economic impact, tax-based diversification. We're very, very heavy for a long time. We were really unbalanced with residential, and we're very much a bedroom community, but that's starting to balance out a lot more with the commercial development we've seen over the past few years. We want it to align with our target industries, and those that we look at are definitely the ones that are the employers that are leaving every day. So healthcare, higher education, business professional services. We lose a lot of our employment also to Buda and San Marcos in the warehouse industry. And then we rely heavily on our regional partners as well to kind of tell us the trends of what's out there, who's looking for those industries that are rising to the top that may align with Kyle's workforce development. So we have initiatives with our regional partners to identify those industries as well. It's primarily what HCEDP is looking for and what Opportunity Austin looks for. So long-term city commitment, you know, and I think we've done a really good job, such as, you know, we offered incentives to ENF, and they seem to have long-term plans to be here in Kyle. You know, those are the type of companies we look for, especially the ones that purchase additional property around them, because we know that sets them up for future expansion. So we have a couple of those projects that we're keeping our eyes on. Dr. Fawn's not here, but ACC is also a great partner with their expansion efforts. So long-term city commitment. And then most importantly, return on investment, so that we can show our community members that we're good stewards of their tax dollars. This slide I pulled from the foreign trade zone policy that was approved by council, but this is how we viewed high value projects. And so this is the basis for some criteria that we can use as well in our incentive policy. So whether they are a corporate headquarters located in Kyle, we look at the size of their existing presence and their growth prospects. That's kind of what I talked about. Does it align with our industry targets? Do they have exceptional future plans? Sometimes those are known, sometimes they're just speculative, but you know, the possibility is always out there in those growing sectors. And again, evaluating return on investment. So I think that's something we can't stress enough. Performance, accountability, and transparency. All of our incentives are performance-based. So the company, very few of them that I can think of, maybe only one we did where the money was given up front, but there's always benchmarks that companies have to meet and developers, and then from there they get reimbursements based off of their performance. So that's how we protect our investment. If they don't perform, then they don't get their incentive. It's very simple. But our goal, obviously, because we thought it was a good project, is to do everything we can to help them meet those benchmarks so that they can get their reimbursement. They must be creating local jobs. Special consideration can be given for hiring local. Several years ago, we gave RSI an incentive, and he got credit, like 2-to-1 credit for hiring local employees that live in Kyle. So we can also look at that. And then the capital investments. So that's also highly considered. We internally are also looking at annual performance reporting through a city tracking system. So we're looking for something that can help track our development agreements and our Chapter 380 agreements. And I'd like to say that most of these agreements that we have in place are mirrored by Hays County. So we appreciate their support and partnership, because it makes the package more, you know, just enticing, and it makes it a better package, more competitive when the county can participate. So they usually just they'll issue a 381 agreement and with the same performance metrics. And then of course clawbacks or reduction clause if strategic commitments are not met. So here is the incentive matrix. This is primarily where we want to get some feedback from the board. This is just a sample. So we thought we would start with, maybe we have a weighted average of you know, the job creation is heavily weighted here. It's the largest percentage. And then we'd look at their average wages, their capital investment, their new tax-based contribution, what is their strategic impact. And these are just numbers of the minimum threshold. So I'm not sure if anyone has any feedback on these numbers, if you think that it's a good starting point.
You walk through strategic impact. That's like desired location, and then
Yes.
staff assign a score like, oh, east of I-35, we really want this.
Yes. Let's just say HEB came in and wanted to build on the east side down at Yarrington. What do you want? What do you need? You know, because that's been a big desire of ours to, you know, bring more development and amenities to that side of town. If you have a really cool, you know, maybe locally owned restaurant, brewery, something unique that's not here already, and they want to set down their roots in downtown Kyle, well, we can look at that as well. Something that will help kick off development.
Also look at, you know, how their location will help influence like the growth of any kind of a tax increment reinvestment zone, or help
Sure.
us to kind of strategically piece things together that we're trying to piece together across the city.
Right, right. If they are, yeah, that catalyst to a district that fills around them, kind of like we see our hotel and convention center being the catalyst to the Lake Park district. You know, if you had something special, you know, a special company that brings a certain industry here, and then everything follows it. Just think, you know, Tesla or Samsung. You know, those are the ones that could also get higher consideration.
Great.
Unicorn. The unicorn factor.
I think it's good. I think it should definitely be in there. It's probably the most subjective
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
indicator in there, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, because I mean, we want to steer things in a certain direction, but it just stood out to me. That was all.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that. That maybe just put some more language and
I might just get a
identification
question about it.
around impact, location, target sectors. And it could be
Like based
that
on target map. You know, something like that.
it could. Yeah, it could also be. Let's just say the first in gets the incentive, and then, you know, that's it. You know, we close the door on that district because now we have, I don't know, like Buc-ee's, right? You know, that's going to be a catalyst to that area in San Marcos. So maybe Buc-ee's gets the incentive, but everything else around it is naturally going to come because they want to be near Buc-ee's. So that could be another one of those unicorn-like projects.
For the local job creation factor, is that qualified by hiring existing Kyle residents or bringing in new residents? Just want to think about, are we unintentionally creating a policy that draws new residents in, which is not a bad thing, at the cost of pushing existing residents out? I don't know if that's going to be the net end result. I want to make sure that we're avoiding that scenario. And I don't know if it's like a weight is 25% and you get extra 5% kicker if it's from existing residents in Kyle versus bringing in outside residents, just to make sure that we're
Yeah, we're targeting our goal, right? Our goal of reducing that 73% out migration.
And of course, if you bring in new population, you ship people in, that will affect our percentage no matter what, because our denominator increases as well. But I want to make sure that we are cognizant of those that already live in the city. And is there a way that we can improve their living situation?
Opportunities for jobs as opposed to relocation
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Does that metric scale in terms of if I get 10 jobs, do I get all 25%? Or do I get the same 25% if I bring in 200 jobs? Or it's
I'm
you
hoping
either
there's a
meet it or
scale
you
behind
don't.
that.
Yeah.
Like I'm
You
hoping,
can
like,
get up to 25%?
that's what I'm hoping. And that's
25% of the total weight of the evaluation is based on.
So yeah, you
for
start
like
with
some
100
scale
points,
of
you
like
can
500 jobs plus or something would get full weight.
Start with 100 points, and if you get 10 jobs, it comes two.
Or even a 10 jobs is 5% here, you get to 100 jobs
might-
is 10%. of the
You might
25.
want to consider grading that 25% into buckets of the size of the employer so that only the biggest are, because if I bring in 12 jobs and I bring in 500 jobs, do they both get 25% of the
Yeah,
score?
it's a great
Right.
point. I don't know what the right scale would be, but we could look at that and we could think about that.
I'm assuming all of these things would have. Once you reach that so to his question, once you reach that minimum threshold, do you get the full weight or is it scaled?
I think it's going to be scaled.
It's going to be scaled, but some of them, jobs is something that you can think of on a numerical scale and that can make sense. Some of the others are, I would envision creating like some criteria that we would kind of further unpack that would help us to identify how we would consider,
Yeah, that only becomes
what-
important
what
when you
comes
have
in.
two
Okay.
grade options.
that are competing for an incentive in the same area at the same thing, at the same
Right.
thing. And that's
So
not,
you don't wait until
that's
then
not
to
likely
decide.
going to,
Yeah, but you don't wait until then to decide.
Yeah.
That's how you.
I think of this as like, if you've ever scored an RFP
leave yourself
where
somewhere.
where you get criteria that you have to look at, and how you consider their work approach to the scope of work that they've been asked to do. So we just,
Okay.
this is the top sheet and we have to still work on, kind of what the
That's what I was hoping.
detail would be behind it.
And the only other thing I was giving some consideration to was the weighting. Like essentially, they're
How would you
equal with the exception of decreasing average wage ratio and increasing local job.
Better have the
How do you
jobs
feel
that-
about it? I mean, what would
Well, I
you
don't-
change on that?
I'm not necessarily.
We're throwing spaghetti on
I-
the wall
I
to see
don't-
what's going to stick.
I don't necessarily know if I would change anything. I mean, it's indicating that we overall favor number
Yeah.
from a job creation perspective. I was just trying to think through our previous conversation where we were kind of talking about, well, why are people leaving? It's higher paying jobs outside of Kyle. So I was just trying
Are
to
they
think,
higher paying jobs or are they just jobs?
well, I guess that's up for y'all and someone with some more analytic
Yeah.
capabilities to tell us, but like, that's all I was trying to think through. Like essentially we've underweighted the average wage ratio.
Yeah.
Like we're saying we favor overall job creation as opposed to higher wage job creation.
Right.
I'm just trying to think
Would you
through
rather
that.
have 50 jobs at 80,000 or 200 at 30,000?
Yes. And I don't
Right.
know if I necessarily have a
And then you can also
thought, but I just,
think of those as combined almost, we're looking at 40% of our ratio is based on jobs, right? Which
right.
does that feel appropriate to be weighting it so heavily on job creation as opposed to tax-based contribution, right? Because
Right.
that's a huge, the return on investment that we get over time, to me, is what we use to, that's the selling point that kind of anchors everything, because that increased tax base is what we can use to fund parks and fund police and fund all the other things that we need to do to have our city grow without having to grow taxes,
And
right?
yeah,
So
it's
individual
that-
40% sounds right, though. How you split the 25, I agree with Luke. How you split the 25-15, I consider whether.
Okay.
Both 20.
2020.
I would also consider flipping the average wage with capital investment, thinking that some of the anecdotal feedback I've heard from the citizens of Kyle are we don't have a lot of white collar jobs, IT, accounting, those kind of professional services that we know people are leaving Kyle to Austin to do. And if we weigh capital investment, I think that's going to end up more heavily favoring blue collar jobs. That if you have a warehouse full of equipment and machinery, that's going to necessarily be a higher capital investment than a bare bones drywall office building that just has people working inside of it.
Yeah,
Um,
from a wage standpoint.
And it would increase their wages. And definitely hear that comment on if we improve the capital evaluation, that increases the property taxes that can come from those structures. I also think there's an argument of if we increase the average wages, you'll have more disposable income and it will get that taxes out on the sales tax side as compared to the property tax side. I don't know where that breaking point is at. But there is a trade-off there too, that we still would get more tax revenue focusing on either of these. And I suspect we would get more happy citizens if we favored the wages and the number of jobs over the valuation of the property and the assets on it.
I would agree.
I'm sort of thinking making average wage 20%. Kind of like where you want a lot of jobs, but you also want a lot of jobs that pay well. So when we submit for projects, we're really shooting for the goal to get one of those bigger companies that comes with 500 jobs, but also has a average wage of 80,000. So.
And then I do kind of like dropping the capital investment percentage allocation. I think that's what you're considering, right?
Yep. Basically flipping the 15 and 20.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then for
Because really
the,
those other, then you have, sorry, those other four are really more long-term impact, right? Like, I mean, the capital investment is big and we want that, but you're right. But like, you know, hopefully you do the construction and, you know, 3 years it's built, whatever, 2 years it's built, and then like that's done, right? But the other four are longer term impact. to the
and
city.
that long, with that structure, the longer term impact, if you had an amazing outlook for Kyle in 10, 20 years,
Mhm.
you're going to get to 55% weight between all three of those factors. Even if the wages today or the jobs today aren't great, you could still win. But if you have a really good number of jobs at a high paying rate and you hit maybe one of the other criteria,
Yeah.
then you've won that scoring matrix. It'd be hard to win without the jobs, but not impossible. And on the new tax-based compensation, we say net positive by fiscal year 7. Where does the 7 come from? I'm sure there's some kind of math behind it. Why is 7 the magic number versus 5 versus
It was
10?
just part of a scoring matrix I'd seen on another application for
I'm
incentives,
assuming that's like a standard,
maybe.
roughly.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be 5 years, it can,
You don't, yeah, to Spencer's point about encouraging long-term growth, you don't want to penalize a company that may take a little bit longer to get cash, to get, in this case, tax accretive. And if they're a longer, steadier industry that's growing and may not really be flourishing until 10 years from now, you don't want to ding them on their 20%
at 20, yeah,
because
that's great.
you move the score down to 3. Whereas the good, stable industries, they're going to meet it. 7 is sort of the.
And that can be how you get
sweet spot for
and-
payback.
getting
More points.
you tax base earlier can be how you get more on that scale potentially.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the next one. That's good feedback. These are just the different tools that we have in our toolbox, performance-based tax rebates. We could look at fee waivers, and this would be mainly for smaller businesses to help support maybe in certain areas downtown. We also participate with infrastructure improvements. We can offer public improvement districts or tax increment reinvestment zones. And then, of course, we help the company evaluate the state, the county, workforce agency support. So that's all part of the total package. And all of this should be tied back to our strategic outcomes. So that was the overarching umbrella policy. And then now we'll just quickly go through the revitalization grant. And these were just suggestions that from feedback that I've heard because the program is not being utilized. So why did the original incentive fall short? The grant is reimbursement based, so requiring businesses to front all of their money up front. Bye. And then initial feedback indicated that businesses lack startup capital for improvements and are hesitant to invest in property they do not own. So that's for tenants. Sometimes the matching fund requirements can be a barrier for small businesses. And the program is focused only on facade improvements, not the broader business viability. So some businesses may need some interior renovations. Maybe they have some ADA restrooms that are old and need to come up to compliance. And so those, we could consider maybe support for those as well. And the current policy does not align with the financial realities of downtown tenants or small businesses. So what we can look at is shifting from rebates on the back end to maybe earlier stage assistance with performance metrics in place. We had talked about possibly almost like a draw, if you finish a certain portion of your improvements, then you can, the city can verify those, and then you can get that portion of your incentive back, and then you have that money so that you can move on to the next stage. So possibly our applicants can phase their renovations or their improvements in the downtown area so that they could get money upfront. And I don't mean upfront, I mean just a little bit sooner rather than having to wait until the whole project is complete. Also, we should look at the difference between recognized differences between property owners, tenants, and small business operators. And what we want to do is focus our incentive on activation of the property. If there's a tenant that, or if there's a building that's vacant, and maybe we just want the building owner to make some improvements so that the whole area looks nice and inviting, even though it might be inviting to a future tenant. So what we're looking for is long-term business success, placemaking, and downtown vitality. So we're looking for your thoughts on a tiered approach for the policy. Look at property owners versus tenants. What type of improvements would appeal to property owners, and what type of improvements would appeal to tenants and small businesses? We could introduce milestone-based disbursements and fee waivers. This is where I think that would be beneficial to small businesses. I think the matching requirement was also a barrier, so maybe we can reduce or be flexible with the match requirements. Expand eligible uses. Here's where we talked about including improvements, interior improvements visible to the public, or code compliance, life safety improvements. And then we want to have a continued focus on permanent transferable improvements. So we know if a tenant improves the interior, most likely it's something that could transfer to another tenant if they moved in.
Or we would focus our, if we would require that any interior improvements be permanent in structure, not something that is they take with them if they leave.
Right.
Fixtures
Versus
Signs.
fancy.
Yep.
Yeah.
We literally had that happen with, we funded a sign, and then
And with them.
they left and they took the sign with them and put it up in another city that we paid for. So anyhow, board feedback. Should the program prioritize business activation over facade only improvements? Should tenants receive different treatment than property owners? Is a pilot or phased approach appropriate? So maybe we rewrite the policy and we try it out for the next fiscal year and see if it works, and then we revisit it again. I think that's a great idea for all of these incentives. And then what outcomes matter most? Do we want occupied storefronts, business longevity, visual improvements, downtown activity levels? Thoughts on? Yes.
All of the above. Yes, please check in.
Yeah, I think we looked at this for quite some time and realized that the other thing that I recently had a business reach out, and they wanted to apply for the grant to do some renovations in downtown, but they needed it to, like yesterday. And I said, well, there's a process. The board has to review it, and then it has to go to council, and they couldn't wait that long. So they, I don't know if they're going to move forward or not, but so
Did they do it anyways?
I'm sorry.
Did they do the renovations anyways?
I don't know. I haven't checked back in with them.
Still working on trying to figure out their plan.
Yep.
We've talked about like the downtown revitalization grant in the past,
Mhm.
low utilization. What's your perception of missing piece? Like ultimately, what do I think would be good for downtown? Activity and businesses and a place where people want to go and you can walk and enjoy life. So like that revitalization grant is meant to take the existing businesses and try and have them look nicer, right? Like that's what it
Part of
is.
yeah.
And more appealing, thank you. And they are, that has not successfully happened in terms of utilization for the revitalization grant. So just kind of makes me think like,
I think
then how do we achieve the overall vision? And it probably, at least for me, is trying to bring more and new things there.
Yep.
That then ultimately are going to elevate the standard of the downtown area
Causing
So
people
where-
to want to utilize.
to causing people to want to utilize it. And then ideally, those existing businesses could be supported to then improve to where maybe there's a little bit more competitive pressure. Maybe there's a little bit more of determination of, hey, are we still committed to this location in downtown? Is this where we want to be? If so, we recognize that the changing landscape around us and we support those businesses to, right? Like we don't want to drive anybody out. That's not what I'm saying. But
Right.
so like I'm just kind of thinking through
I
like
think it's a chicken and an egg,
Yeah.
right? Because we've had, as a community, long before I started working for the city of Kyle, we've been talking about wanting to redevelop, revitalize downtown, and we've done studies. There's been hurry up and wait kind of activities, and we haven't just embraced a strategy to do that. So some of this is, I mean, we've got to kind of get everybody on board, community, staff, and council moving towards a direction. And I think, the biggest nut to crack is always parking downtown. And so we're working on that. And I think once we crack that nut, there's going to be capacity to work on redevelopment, especially the city-owned properties that we have around there. We're desperately in need of additional office space, as evidenced by city administration being in the police department. And City Hall is just undersized for what we need. So there's a lot of things that if we can get some good direction and some alignment with council, we can start to strategically advance. And I think this rebuilding and restructuring our downtown, this kind of revitalization program or this kind of grant program will help to complement that when we start seeing activity on that side. So, I mean, they all kind of have to work together. We're
Absolutely.
also looking at, with our code rewrite, we're going to have honestly a separate chapter that is quite specific to downtown so that we can clearly articulate what our downtown needs and wants are. So a lot of activity that's happening right now that may not see anybody using this grant program still for another 6 months to a year, but when we need it, we want it to be ready.
Sure.
Okay.
I think that sounds great. Like now I would say anecdotally lacking any, this is a personal perception, right? That's what you're asking for, right? I would say I would favor business activation.
Yeah.
I would want to draw more businesses there. That ideally, if they're coming, they're going to invest some of their own money anyways and make the place look nice. And if, that is through tax incentives or other modalities from the city that offset cost and the enhanced code in that area requires a certain level of elegance for downtown Kyle, then I think that's the route I would favor.
I agree with that. And the thoughts I would add here are knowing that if we're trying to increase occupations of these storefronts, this grant could also be geared towards the tenant, who then gives the incentive to whoever's moving in and saying it'll help offset your build out costs of whatever you're going to design the interior to look like for your storefront. That's fine. I also think that there's a challenge from the feedback we've heard of cash flow. I wonder if we structure the payment of we have the whoever is applying for the grant do the work, have a contractor, they did the work, they get the invoice. That invoice is usually net 30 days. If they have the work done and invoice in hand, they turn that to the city. City issues payment within that 30-day time frame back to the grantee, and the grantee uses that money to pay for the invoice. And that way we're not waiting for reimbursement on the grantee, but we still get the check for the city side of we verified the work is done and we're paying for completed work versus the hypothetical someday you're going to do this, here's an advance of funding. So we kind of strike that balance of hitting the safety of the city while also offsetting the burden that the grantee is concerned about.
Victoria, when we were in Burleson last month now, I was struck by the collaboration of the public infrastructure project to make the area walkable and enjoyable from an aesthetic sense, and also the business participation, the business presence. I'm wondering if we should consider pairing that with an infrastructure project that makes downtown a little bit more appealing from the sidewalk, lighting. Why does the park, why do our pretty lights stop at the square and not continue down Center Street? Why do our sidewalk, because if we want businesses to come and they're limited to that 3 families that own the whole square, why not make additional or adjacent areas appealing as well that are still walkable? That also needs to be addressed with parking, because we put all of our parking right there by City Square, we've used some valuable real estate. So I'd like to encourage some development there that can help build out a destination for families. To me, that's not a tourism thing. That's more of a local folks coming to want to spend
It is,
Friday
yeah.
night.
And having something to do and a destination
Yeah.
and
Come eat, cross the street, let the kids play in the park,
That's right.
and not have to go to.
That's right.
I think a lot of what we're waiting on is just, as Rosie was saying, direction from council, because there's, one important thing we're waiting on, and if we get their approval to move forward, then we're going to work really hard to build that revitalization plan. We've already had some of these discussions internally. We have
This supplements that.
right. So the message would be, we're doing this, we have this. So for our existing employers, we have the businesses, we have the grant, plus this is what the city's doing to revitalize the whole area. I'm not sure if we had mentioned in the past to you all or not, but there's a firm, Coleman and Associates, and they're working on a downtown beautification plan. There might be some opportunity for board feedback as well.
there will be. We're trying to get with 4 new council members since November. We're spending the time that we really need to spend with them for them to get up to speed on everything that we're doing. And that's hundreds of projects. So it's
being one of them. Yeah. So this is all great feedback. And we also have a close relationship and a really top-notch communications team that we'll work closely with when we roll out the new incentives. They will help us with getting the word out to the community, to the business community as well, about all of the grants that we offer. So it'll be this one, and let's see if the next one, the restaurant incentive. I'll quickly go through this for the sake of time, because I think some of you have to leave right at 9. So,
I'm 9:30 today. I'm good.
oh, really?
I've got a firm stop, otherwise
Okay. The restaurant incentive, it wasn't utilized very well. The first restaurant that took it closed after a year. The second restaurant never materialized. The third restaurant has never asked for the incentive. I don't know why, even though we've told them they can ask, they have to, ask for their rebate. So quickly, what are your thoughts on restaurant incentive? I think Cassidy maybe last time had some good feedback about making it specific to certain areas. This isn't broadly open to anything on 35. This would be downtown.
So we kind of follow the overarching policy and criteria, or no? Would it follow that other weighting criteria, or no?
Well, this one would,
That was just, you know what I'm saying?
it could. I mean, I don't know why we would need a specific, but
Gonna be not like
Do we
Hardly
need-
capital
apply.
investment would be way different.
A
but,
restaurant
like,
would have $1 million of investment.
But like, I'm just thinking about like location.
and is this really still necessary? Or could this, as you're saying, could we roll this under just the overall incentive policy where we look at activation of specific districts and specific locations? Maybe we don't need the restaurant incentive anymore because we have so many of them coming now. But we do have that flexibility to look for that special. And I think maybe right here, should local and unique concepts receive preference? I like that.
My vote is always yes for that.
A lot of community feedback too, of we're tired of 17 McDonald's or whatever the fast food chain is, which we need to have them for sure, but we also need to have something that's unique and
Well, and like I've shared with you, Victoria, and I think the number of restaurants growth has been immense and we've made great strides, but like, at least from like the hospital perspective, when we leave Kyle for a lunch meeting or dinner meeting or something, it is to another area for uniqueness
A
and
better
and,
sit-down
and
quality
level of
restaurant.
dining.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and I just want you all to know, I always ask the question, where in Kyle can we go? Like that's how I start.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, that place probably isn't the best fit for this. We we'll go to Pho with us but like that's it's a lunch, but like so
Yeah.
then when we leave, it's
We understand.
for that. Yeah.
What can we
I would
do
love to stay in Kyle is all.
Yeah, what can we do to incentivize higher price point dinner option to, for the dinner client?
Mhm.
With this one's a one of a kind in Kyle, not the latest chain.
Right. And I think maybe it's just, putting the message out there and working with our comms team about what we're looking for.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is Kyle's economic development plan for amenities for residents? And it's a simple message to,
Do we target certain restaurant owners? From
We
Austin?
have, yeah.
And say like,
we have, there's
But-
one in particular that.
But I think what we're hearing is, or at least what I'm
the
hearing,
demand is not there.
well, I think there's some of that we would have to, I mean, there's,
But should I ideally go hand in hand, right? More jobs, higher paying jobs, people, less commuters.
the idea would be if we take this restaurant incentive and really strategically focus it on the local unique concept of higher end dining that is, what people are leaving Kyle to go get in Buda or Austin or whatever. Then maybe that's the space that it lives in now, instead of just a general restaurant incentive that anybody could apply for.
I like
I see.
Right? So
idea.
it's like we laser focus this on what we're missing,
Mhm.
which is exactly what you're talking. I mean, I know exactly what
And we all
Laser
know-
focus.
We all know what we're talking about.
we all know what we want. We just have to figure out how to get there and see if we can get some movement around that.
Julian, I remember a story you said when you were deciding where you wanted to put your shop.
Mhm.
Between Austin and Kyle. And Austin, the timeline to get approvals through permitting, everything else would have been a year plus. And Kyle was not. Is that the right recollection of that story?
It's a funny story. Everything I kept hearing about opening in Kyle was negative. And so I didn't begin, I began my search in Austin, Utah, everywhere else. Ultimately, we started at Victoria and Thorn, and the story was the opposite. It was like, just what can we do to help you out? So I had no issues, and I'll tell anybody who's looking to open here, like, my experience was great. And so I always encourage people to come and open business here.
Yep.
And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I had no, if I had to do it again, same thing happened when we moved from downtown to Plum Creek. It was super streamlined. It was smooth. Again, sometimes I think about, we're opening up either this year or early next year. If I had to do a third store, would I do it in a different part of Kyle? Maybe. It's growing at a crazy rate. So,
And
You
the
know.
timeline to get approval from the cities between Kyle and Utah, is there a difference that you're seeing?
I haven't dealt with that yet with
Okay.
Utah. So early on right now.
Okay.
Um,
The reason I bring that up is I'm wondering if an incentive, not financial, is just if you apply or meet these criteria, you get to the top of the list in terms of inspections and approvals and
Expedited permitting is a thing. I will say in general, I've heard from many people, maybe not Julian, who have said that exact thing. I was looking in Austin, it was going to take me a year plus. I came here and it was 4 months. I'm developing 2 mirror image developments, one in Kyle, one in San Marcos. Kyle was permitted in 4 months. It's a year and a half going in San Marcos, and I have no idea what the problem is. So we hear that. That's one of the things that when we tout why you want to come to Kyle, that's one of the things that we offer because we know we can make things happen. So I think but that's also some of just doing business. Like that's just how we do things here, as opposed to the bureaucracy that comes with a city of
Or-
Austin or whatever's going on in San Marcos that I'm not going to try to talk about.
I was gonna say, we love all our communities equally, I think, Caldwell, but we use Kyle as a case study quite often for how fast their permitting is. So we started building those case studies, but we heard a lot that Kyle moved very quickly. So another prime example.
And so I wonder if a recommendation to council is not let's set aside X dollars to incentivize a business to come in that meets these criteria, could we devote some of that funding to hiring another FTE on the permitting side? That way it's even faster to get approvals. And we become known as the city to go to because if you want a business, you go to Kyle for a 2-month approval process versus a year and a half someplace else.
Well, I think I would be shocked if adding an employee, and I'm saying this genuinely because I'm over that department as well. I would be shocked if adding an employee actually sped things up in that respect. I think more often than not, we're turning things around so quickly that the delay is just like the natural course of doing business.
Sure.
And or coming from the development side.
And I'm not saying that's the only answer, but open to any kind of feedback of what could we do to make, even if we're doing so great, could we be better there?
We could always be better, but I don't know, given all the needs that we have, that I would push on that lever right now, considering how I see our metrics going.
And the development staff is fully, not funded,
Fully staffed.
staffed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, it's probably been a while since we've had all our positions
I mean,
full.
that we've been performing
inspectors.
without having full staffing.
Yeah.
And now I think
And
we are
management.
fully staffed for the first time.
Good.
Well, in the 2 years that I've been here, we'll go with that.
But that's great feedback. Maybe the messaging, that's again, I think messaging is a lot, has to do with that. And the messaging could be, and I love Rosie's idea about making this a more targeted, unique, local restaurant incentive.
And even if we make it then a little bit more valuable, if we can look at that to see like what would it take to get those concepts to want to come here. So we can talk about that. I have an idea about that.
Okay,
Imagine
don't lose your thought.
something big, it's business. Right, like that, and then,
It's just all right there below the surface.
and then you guys go and say, hey, we're super quick. You're a great.
Great, you found,
you're a
like-
great
like
Austin
Jimmy-
restaurant. You
Jimmy
wanna come down
John's.
here and branch off and have your whatever.
So, and everyone
And I
knows
know y'all
that
are
we're
working on that
working
now.
on the Heroes Memorial Park restaurant, and I'm very excited about that. We're planning for a presentation to council about kind of the results of what the public
Awesome.
survey was at the March 24th meeting. You should all chime in or tune in and see.
Any word on Z Tejas backfill?
No, not yet.
Is there anything
No.
we can- No?
I know. The last Lauren heard, the owner said he was close to signing a lease with somebody, but we haven't. That was probably the same update I gave you last month.
Oh, you have to go ahead and read. I'm sorry.
I bought about 15 minutes of push to meeting.
Okay. We'll quickly go through first year on
I'm
this.
excited to hear
Okay.
about this result of the survey, so I think we can get to that in the next one.
We're gonna go fast through first year on us, and then we'll fly through the rest of it.
Yep. I think, and so, first year on us was mainly to refund or rebate the first year's taxes for small businesses, mainly to help small businesses. I think it falls under the same kind of challenge that we see with the downtown revitalization grant. The business owner has to wait a whole year to get their maximum refund. Did that really move the needle? What was the return on investment for the city? A lot of times, this was just a nice to have incentive, but the company or the business may have come without it anyways. It was just, hey, there's something that the city is giving away here, so why not use it? The misalignment with the business reality for small businesses, the benefit is often too small and delayed to meaningfully affect their decision making. So we've had one that was awarded that actually closed within the first year. So that it wasn't very well thought out. Some of the things we could look at is maybe renaming it from first year on us to small business launch and expansion incentives. We can look at this separately. First year tax property rebates, we could look at target fee waivers. This may be for other areas outside of downtown, site plan fee waivers, building permits, inspection fees. All of those things we can kind of play around with and see if these are costs that businesses incur up front that may also help them move forward. Helps the small business focused incentive would help now reduce upfront fees, improve cash flow, fee waivers, and first year refund. Better alignment with the strategic plan. We want to focus on small business creation, downtown and corridor activation, local employment, cleaner fit under the new umbrella policy. So do you all feel that there needs to be a specific small business incentive program? If we also hear a lot about how other neighboring communities have those small business ecosystem that we may not have. Is this another good way to target? Like we want to target specific restaurants. Is this another good use of our time and our effort, or should we roll this up under?
Maybe we condense them. A restaurant is almost inherently a small business, and that instead of having two different competing programs that have middling success, we find a way to roll it all into one and find that unique, that new thing, that destination, that whatever thing that we all know we want, but we can't define.
I think that I hear what you're saying, and I think there'd be merit in retooling and think about how they fit. I think having the small business component or complement is nice. Even maybe from I don't know, a public relations standpoint, right? Like, so I think of two things. A, we should have it because we want small businesses. We want people to come. We want them to grow. We want them in the community. And that uniqueness provides flavor and cultural appreciation to a community. And I think that also, it's a nice complement to have just for general awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in general, people are in favor of supporting small businesses. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, even if it's underutilized, I think
It
there's still
sends a
merit in
message,
having
right?
it.
It sends a
It's a good
merit that
message.
it sends the message
Yes,
that we value
yes.
small businesses
That's what
and
I'm
we're
trying
there
to
to
say.
support them. And, you know, I also kind of I'm wondering out loud how these might layer rather than combining. I like the idea of the laser focus. We are looking for this restaurant or this kind of restaurant. And then maybe there's something there that layers with a small business incentive that maybe would make sense there. Rather than just combining them in general, because I like the message that it sends, because I mean, absolutely the thing I hear, the three themes that I hear the most, I don't even know if I'm at three, is downtown, fix it, fix it, fix it,
Mhm.
right? I want better restaurants, the laser focused restaurant, and what about small businesses? So I feel like if we keep those focuses, then
Yeah, separate.
we're hitting what we hear people talk about either at council or in the socials or in the feedback that we get, even if they are underutilized.
We need to help get the word out too at the chamber. I mean, we do send people to the city, or we have a resource page for businesses on our website. I mean, we do get people in the office that are just starting a business. So we need to do a better job, you know, providing this information to them. But, you know, we definitely already send them to you guys. But yeah, we could definitely help there.
Small businesses grow, so this gives you more flexibility when giving incentives to businesses with high potential that might not meet other metrics in the overall program.
They're not going to qualify for the big fancy incentive, you know, the big incentive,
Yeah.
right? But if there's ways that we can recognize the value that brings and the cultural identity that brings to the city of Kyle, then
Just that barrier to entry is a good thing.
okay. I think have we covered all of this stuff?
I think that's oh, yeah, and just, this is in here because I wanted to remind you that council adopted a foreign trade zone policy. And we have our first applicant that we will be taking to council first meeting of April. That's ENF. So, all right. So next steps, we'll take your feedback. We'll draft policies. We will have our financial guru, John Hawkinyos with TXP, review them as well. And then we'll have our legal review.
Get a small group together before the next meeting, the subcommittees.
Okay, so bring back board, take to council, and then we'll have council adopt it. And then there'll be a big rollout. So we lose quorum. Yep. So.
Give me the motion to adjourn.
Well, we can adjourn and then officially, and then we can run through the other updates. There's no more action that's necessary. We just, if you wanted to have some information and have a conversation about the other things, but
We'll go ahead and
We would need to
adjourn
adjourn.
the meeting
moved.
at 9:10.
so you want to pull up the staff report real quick, and I'll just start talking while you're pulling it up. Just to share. So, you know, we talked about earlier, I mentioned that we've got 4 new council members. We've been really investing a lot of staff time to get them, you know, up to speed on all of the things that we have been doing for the last couple of years. We've had council visioning workshop the week in January 24th. They just finished a 3-day strategic visioning session this past weekend. We actually have on March 19th a number of items that are going in closed session that are all related to some of the P3 projects that we've been working on with them, are working on, that we want to bring council up to speed on. That's specifically the office development in Plum Creek, the hotel and conference center, downtown redevelopment, parking solutions to support downtown and growth. So we have completed our RFP processes for both the hotel conference center, convention center, and the Plum Creek office building. And with getting council up to speed on those, we should hopefully be seeing those be brought to council for execution of the exclusive negotiating agreement with the selected development partners. Probably the hotel first, just because it's a little bit further along. And so I would, in my happy fun memory, in my happy fun time, it actually wouldn't be March 24th. It would now be April 7th, because we had anticipated, this is common ground. Sorry.
Yeah.
We would bring the hotel and convention center forward for action, hopefully on April 7th, if things go according to plan. And then probably the office building either the next meeting or the first meeting in May. For the community survey results for Heroes Memorial Park, 1,400 responses. Was the biggest engagement effort that we did as a city, which was super cool to have. Fundamentally, you'll see when we present on the 24th, everybody is, the concepts are that they're looking at is something that is appropriate for the park, that's got good indoor outdoor space, that's that kind of good transition piece from the beautiful reverence of Heroes Memorial Park into bustling brick and mortar. We're going to present the survey results and kind of just do a check-in with council. And then we'll return to council in probably March 24th, probably in April, in closed session to have a conversation about actual concepts. And so our consultant will present us with 10 or 12 concepts that would align with what the vision is that the council and the community have presented. And then we'll hopefully come out of that with a half a dozen at least that they can go and talk to. Because we're not going to narrow it down and say, we only want this. Because if this is not ready to expand, right, then we are kind of back at square one.
Point at me.
That way. We only want this.
Were there themes from the survey?
The survey wasn't really talking about, are you pulling it up?
I'm trying
You're trying to find the
actually
presentation?
Stop.
The recording?
It's a good use of AI to just have AI read all of your survey results.
Cassidy, we have to leave. Sorry, friend.
Oh, here, stop
There we
recording.
go. We don't have to leave. Never mind.
Nope, no, hang on. Do you
Um,
want me to pull up the other?